the relationships that would qualify for domestic violence. Um, the breakdown of domestic violence would be okay. The breakdown of domestic violence would be verbal abuse, um, physical abuse, which most people are very aware of. Most people bring it back to just being physical abuse, emotional, mental, psychological, and those run into a lot of different things. So if we do verbal abuse, a lot of people have been victims of verbal abuse, and are not aware of the impacts that it has. And verbal abuse for us is the most damaging type of abuse that there is, because it is the basis of how we start to formulate what a healthy relationship looks like. If you have grown up hearing, you're never going to amount to nothing, you're so stupid, I don't even understand why you're here, you're such a mistake, and that becomes your norm, hearing it from somebody else becomes normal. So you take on that as it just being normal. So it's part of a healthy relationship because it's part of your regular relationship, but it's not a healthy characteristic. It's not something that should happen or needs to happen. Negative words break down your self-esteem, and most of the scars that we have in relationships are the scars that are not seen. They're the scars that are stuck in our psyche. So somebody says something to you, you accept them talking down to you, you accept them calling you names, you accept the arguments and all the rest of it. Those type of characteristics of why we do that usually come from our verbal abuse that has happened throughout the years. And so understanding that negative words are not healthy is important. They're easier in a lot of ways to say, because when we're angry and we're hurt or we're enraged, it tends to come to the surface, but it does not make for a healthy relationship. Because if somebody's constantly calling you something negative or telling you're so stupid or you'll never amount to anything and look at you, or why do you look like that, can't you do this, can't you do that, and nothing about you is positive, and there's all criticism and no praise to balance it out, that does not lend to a healthy relationship. And because that is part of the grooming process, um, and I want to talk a little bit about grooming in a minute. But everybody does know what grooming is. If you do know what grooming is, raise your hand. We associate it usually only with sexual violence, but does everybody know what grooming is? Okay. One of the things that verbal abuse does is start the grooming process. When children are molested, which is usually where when we hear of grooming, it doesn't happen with the child first. It happens with the family first. And so recognizing that is very, very important. Recognizing that the grooming of a family for a child to become molested means that the mother or the family members have to be into seeing this person who is the perpetrator as being the best person, just like in domestic violence. There are very few domestic violence perpetrators that nobody likes. They are usually everybody's best friend, because the grooming process for domestic violence is very, very similar to the grooming process for sexual assault, especially in child sexual assault. And so the nice words with the conflicting action is where that comes in. And so whereas being angry, you may say stuff, they're going to counter it with, don't worry about that. That's not true. But then you have to do something in return for it. And so that's where the grooming process does start. It seems like it would be a healthy relationship, or that person would be your go-to person, but it's the process of getting you in a position where you feel that that person is your solace or your safe place, or the person that's best for you, which is one of the reasons why social isolation, which is a part of domestic violence that happens in the psychological, is that they will become your all in all so that they pull you away from your family. Um, and so if you are in a relationship and you realize that you've lost contact with your friends, because it makes the person that you're in a relationship with feel uncomfortable, You don't want to do a lot of the things that you want to do because it upsets them, so they don't really want you to do it. And because they don't want you to do it, then you don't do it because you don't want the conflict between both of them, because you already feel uncomfortable. But the grooming process has happened so well that you feel to yourself that I don't want to do anything that is going to cause me to lose this relationship. And so we start self sacrificing, which is part of the mental abuse that takes place. One of the things about mental abuse is that we don't realize that it's happened until after it's happened because of the mind games that happen with the grooming process. For example, and if you have questions, you can stop me. Um, One of the, for example, you may like to wear your hair a certain way, or you may like to dress a certain way, or you may like to watch certain things. That person that you're in the relationship with will start with, why you always have to look like that? Why you don't comb your hair this way? You're always playing that game. Why you always watching that television show? You know, you spend so much time with them, you don't even spend any time with me. None of that really sounds like it's a bad thing. It just sounds like them expressing themselves. And if you know that that's something that you used to do, then you start to give up a lot of the stuff that you liked to do, because this person is making it seem that you're choosing whatever the activity is over them. And so your self sacrifice starts, but you don't recognize it as a self sacrifice, because when you think about it openly, it just seems like, oh, okay, all right, so maybe I don't have to watch the show every day. I could watch it, every now and again, and then it wouldn't cause a problem with the other person. But on the same token, if the show is a half an hour, and you're not binge watching, which means you're watching it 24 hours a day, then why is the half an hour of your time so much of an important, why is that half an hour so important of a time that they can't allow you to have the half an hour? But we don't look at it like that, because the psychological, the mental abuse has already started. And verbal abuse isn't always negative words. It's the intent behind the negative words to get the reaction that they want. Do you understand? Um, am I clear with that? Do you understand what I mean by that? If you understand, do the raise your hand thing. Okay, so nobody understands what I mean by that. Okay, so let me see if I can rephrase it. Um, if you if you have if you have someone that you're in a relationship with, and the relationship that you have with them is going very well, and you always let's use clothing. You always wear t-shirts, right? You always wear t-shirts. And so because you always wear t-shirts, because they make you comfortable, you like how they look. Every time you go out, they're like, well, why you have on a t-shirt? Now this is the way you define yourself. And so there's like, well, you shouldn't always wear a t-shirt. Everywhere you go, you're wearing a t-shirt. Try and wear something different. Just try and wear something different. So sometimes you wear a t-shirt, and then when you're going out with them, because in your mind, you already know that they're going to bring up the conversation about the t-shirt again, then you get a dress shirt. So when you're going out with them, then you wear a dress shirt. So so to ask a question, if with the situation that I just gave you, does it sound like what's going on is anyway some type of control or anything to that effect? Does it sound like it to you, or it just sounds like a suggestion? If it sounds like a suggestion, say yes. If it sounds like if it's control, how many? Let's see. I'm not familiar with teams. So, okay, so let's do this one by one. If it sounds like a suggestion, say raise your hand. Okay, if it sounds like control, say raise your hand. Okay, for most people, thank you, Matao. For most people, that doesn't sound like control, because it's just, I can change what wearing when I go out with that person. But what's already happening is that the manipulation to get you to do what they want you to do has already taken place, right? It's already on. 1 second, I did not realize my phone was still on. um I didn't realize my phone was still on. I apologize. Sorry. um Sorry, I turn off the ring on this. So what would happen at that point in time is, because they've already started changing the way you view yourself and see yourself. You now have started making the changes to become the person they would like you to be. The manipulation has already started, and the grooming has already started, but it's not noticeable. Um, So, in looking at that, we don't usually realize that that becomes the start of what could be an unhealthy relationship, because we still see it as a healthy relationship. All right. Can you give me 1 second? Excuse me 1 second. I just need to go pick up a report from the police, and I'll be right back. Okay. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
I appreciate you being in our session. This is Patricia Towell. And while she stepped away, um, there are signs of a healthy relationship. You're going to see signs of consensus, signs of compromise. You're going to see supportive acts, and you're going to see supportive words. But sometimes, as Ms. Gums is saying, it's very subtle. The person is molding you or molding their partner to be what they want. And then as the control gets stronger, um, they will be able to do even more manipulation. And sometimes people are on, they don't have their own access to whatever funds are between the couple. So it can be financial, and the verbal abuse certainly does change your thinking at times, and that's what she's alluding to. And it's not always physical. In fact, sometimes it doesn't even rise to physical. But you've got all these other things going on with one person in the relationship wanting to exercise power over the other one. And in that case, that makes it abusive, because you don't have free choice, because you're being threatened and you're being controlled by words, and that changes your thoughts. So, um, what are your thoughts about what you're hearing? Go ahead and unmute. Kiana?
Hi.
Hi. What are you
So
what are you thinking?
about domestic violence relationships or just overall?
Well, the information you're hearing from these Gums, what are your thoughts?
Well, so my dad is actually a detective and he's a DV detective, a domestic violence detective.
Mm-hmm.
So, like about domestic violence, I feel, well, about what she was stating, like, um, when your partner start to say why you always have to look like that, why you always have to do like the same things, or and then start to make things seem like their bad one is actually traits that you have. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if they can't accept you how you are, or um this is you, like this is the human you are, this is things you do, things you like, or how you like your hairstyle, I just personally feel like that mental state is not for you. And especially when she was stating social isolation, like pulling yourself away from your friends and family just because you're in a relationship with someone that doesn't probably want you around them and stuff like that, I just feel like you need to pull yourself away. That's not healthy, that's toxic. um
Yes.
yeah, that's just not something for you to be around. That's not a good environment.
Right, and I'm glad to hear that you have thought through some of this. So, sometimes we do get blinded. We do fall for that person, and we
Yeah.
don't think it through. So here's Miss Gums again. We were just kind of going
Uh
over
huh.
reactions to what you've been saying, and I think there's some good stuff. LaShawn, you have something you want to say quick? We've only got about 6 left. But LaShawn,
I
do you have
apologize
anything
for
to
that.
add? Well, jump in or put it in the chat. Okay, Ms. Gums, go
I
ahead.
apologize for that.
No
That was
worries.
well, I'm at the office, and so the police and I have been working on something. So thank you for your patience. I do apologize. So as I was saying before, the process of grooming happens even before you know it, which is how it starts working so well, and you get caught into it. Most people, when they think they're in a healthy relationship, haven't recognized a lot of the grooming that has already taken place. And because they don't recognize a lot of the grooming that has taken place, by the time they do recognize that the grooming, so they've lost who they are, they've lost the things that they like to do, they've lost the contact and communication that they've had with other people. And this is all before it becomes physically violent. Because that is not the first thing that you do. The representative usually shows up. When you get into a relationship with somebody, if they hit you the first day, the likelihood of you staying in the relationship is next to none. So they are the sweetest person that you would want, and that is how the grooming process starts. And so to weigh it out, because I know that we're running out of time, to weigh it out in terms of how do you recognize if you're in a healthy relationship, communication. Being able to communicate with the person and have the person communicate back with you is very, very important. Respect for each other's opinion, your ability to feel comfortable in discussing anything with that person. If you start to feel uncomfortable, or if you have a difference of opinion and it turns into a war, for lack of a better word, then the relationship is not as healthy as you would like it. People do get upset, people do get angry, but if your ability to control your anger in terms of your communication and relationships and response to the other person is not able to be controlled, because that really is based on a lot of respect. If you're not able to do that, then something's going on in the relationship and the signs are already there. So if you pay attention to those, it will help you to recognize how healthy your relationship is. The other part of that is how much has your past affected the relationship that you're in presently. And if there's a lot of healing that still needs to be done with yourself, then being in a relationship with somebody else is going to be a little bit difficult, because a lot of times we are with a person in person, but emotionally we're not with that person. We're still in a relationship with the last person that we were in. And so keeping that in mind and being sure that we can balance that out is a very, very good way to be able to monitor how healthy the relationship we are in is, and how healthy we are in terms of being one to be in a relationship. Okay, do we have any questions? Because I do know that I'm out of time. I apologize again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank, thank you, Ms. Gums. This is something, of course, this month we're focusing on, but it's not only during October that we need to be aware of what's going on in our community. And we will be presenting some more information at the university about sexual harassment. There has recently been some changes in the Title IX law, which governs how universities operate. So please be on the lookout for that. I'm not sure
Okay.
when it's going to happen, but
Okay.
we're putting something together, especially for student employees, but it's going to be open for everyone. We've done it. They did one event like that. But students, thank you so much for coming. And you you are showing a good investment in yourself to come and learn about a difficult topic. So thank you for that. And if you ever have any issues with this, please come to me or to the Women's Coalition. Let us help you. We are all confidential. And if you report to me at the university, I am not compelled to move it on unless you want it to move on. Other people that you might tell or get involved will be compelled to turn it into an investigation. And if sometimes that is exactly what needs to happen, but it has to be what you want to happen. I want you to know your options. So the nurse on campuses and the counselors, I don't know if you're on St. Thomas, St. Croix. I'm on St. Croix. Dahlia Stradivarian Felix is on St. Thomas. Nurses, Dr. Herbert and Dr. DaCosta. DaCosta, of course, Dr. DaCosta is here on St. Croix. Dr. Herbert is on St. Thomas. So if you need just someone to talk it through, please come to one of us. Thank you, Ms. Gumbs. We'll see you this afternoon.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming. I'm gonna end the meeting so someone else can get on, because we have another session coming up. All right, thank you.
Thank you guys so much, and be safe.